Hi everyone, and welcome to another stand-up video. As a reminder, you have Talia and Zaynab here with you today. A few weeks ago, we published an article written by Talia about discrimination specifically towards the Chinese community, not just here in the UK, but around the world, in light of the COVID-19 originating in China and spreading around the world. Unfortunately, the Chinese community and South Asian community have been scapegoated and have been targeted since. These conspiracy theories have been growing. We're hearing bizarre things. Recently, the Muslim community and the Jewish community have been so we recently shared a CST detailed report and also a report by the anti-Muslim hate working group detailing some of the posts and the language and the rhetoric that has been shared. So Talia, why is it always minority groups being scapegoated for such bizarre ideas, as I say?
I think it is such an interesting question. Firstly, I think we should point out, we don't usually talk about conspiracy theories. It's not really the type of thing that we do. We tend to try and we talk about the effects that conspiracy theories can have, but we don't tend to do a deep dive into them. But I actually think it's really important to shed light on the crazy ideas that have been circulating around. But I think that minority communities are scapegoated because of fear. Because as we've kind of said before in previous videos, something as kind of big and scary as this global pandemic stirs up a lot of fear in people, and people look for someone to blame, and they attach that blame to different people. And as the kind of story evolves and things happen, that blame can mutate. And I think it's really interesting because both the Jewish and the Muslim communities have had a lot of hate rhetoric directed towards them because of coronavirus, some similar and some quite different. And I think it's really interesting. Do you want to kind of detail what have the Muslims got to do with coronavirus?
Don't ask me. I was actually shocked to see some of the posts that were quite horrible online, and you'd think they'd get 10 retweets, max 20. Some have actually received over 10,000 tweets, which is quite terrifying. I think towards the Muslim community, firstly, these kind of allegations started in India, where the Muslims were being blamed for spreading the virus, congregating, going against kind of the government guidelines. Some people have gone so far to call it the corona jihad, suggesting that this is deliberate terrorism by the Muslim community. Now, some far-right groups here in the UK picked up this rhetoric and started using this language kind of on socials, Twitter, Facebook, etc. Firstly, old videos are recirculating of Muslims congregating in mosques. There's one specifically in Birmingham. This video has gone viral to suggest that mosques are still open despite of kind of the lockdown. This post in itself, as I said, got 10,000 reshares and retweets.
I think what's so interesting about that specific example is that it's not insinuating that the Muslim community are to blame for the virus, but what it's saying is that the Muslim community are other, and that they're not conforming to the British rules or the British society at the moment, which is to stay at home and to self-isolate. And I think that is really interesting.
And I think it's people are more likely to believe it at the moment because it's Ramadan and usually people congregate in mosques. So it's really easy to sell this fake idea, potentially why it's actually recirculating on such a mass scale. People have gone so far to say that the police are actually providing preferential treatment for the Muslim community. They're comparing mosques to churches. If this was a church, it'd be locked down straight away. Why are these mosques still open? So kind of evoking feelings of, this is our country, these are our churches, why are their mosques open? So definitely othering the community. Some people have gone so far to suggest statistics. Apparently 6% of the cases have been caused directly by Muslims kind of interacting, going out, etc. and some people are calling it an apartheid. I'm not sure why or how, but this is one of the terms that were used.
Well, it's this separation, isn't it? It's an us and them. It's saying that the Muslim community are doing their own thing, and they've got their own rules, which obviously they aren't, and they don't. And yeah, it's really horrible, kind of the thinking about what that could lead to if someone, you know, if I saw a video online at the moment of people not socially distancing, whether they were a religious group or not, it makes me feel really angry. It makes me feel really upset that people are doing that. So, you know, to pin that blame on the Muslim community unfairly, it's just terrible.
And actually there have been, I don't know if you've seen, Talia, but there have been also kind of images circulating to say that if you do end up getting the virus, then you should actually go into mosques, synagogues, and diverse communities to spread this around. And that is kind of seen as their way of fighting back against these two communities for this bizarre kind of conspiracy theory.
So bizarre. With the Jewish community, it's slightly different. There's a slightly different angle to it. In the CST report, which we will link below in the description of this video, they detailed this idea that people think that the virus is a Jewish conspiracy. So either the virus is real and the Jewish community created it, or the virus is fake and the Jewish community created it. So it's kind of, it's really interesting because it still links, but people thinking completely different things.
Yeah.
So that's been really interesting. And again, there are calls, it's been kind of dubbed the Jew flu, and there have been calls to spread it to synagogues as well.
Talia, is this the first time where the Jewish community is blamed for spreading a disease?
No, definitely not. I mean, if you look back, firstly, Hitler used the phrase the Jewish virus in Mein Kampf when he wrote it in the 1920s, which I think is fascinating, because to use that language of a virus, I think it is so kind of harsh language, and it kind of stirs up connotations of kind of dirt and spreading and infectious and disease. But these ideas link back a long time before Hitler to the 1340s with the spread of the Black Death. The Black Death, the plague that kind of wiped through Europe, killing hundreds and thousands of people, was spread by rats, but the Jewish community were blamed for it at the time. They were allegedly poisoning the wells, and many people lost their lives as a result. I mean, there are instances in Strasbourg, for example, I think it was in 1349, when thousands of Jewish people were burnt alive in one day, and the virus hadn't even hit the city yet. So people were so fearful. So these ideas do link back to the Black Death, and the Jewish community being blamed for the virus. You can see that these ideas aren't new. They've just been repurposed for a modern day audience. I think also what's really important to remember is that these ideas now also have a voice and a platform. When you Google coronavirus, or you Google something about the Jewish or the Muslim community, often one of the first things that come up is a conspiracy theory. I am sure that if I typed in Muslims coronavirus, or, you know, maybe looking for some advice about Ramadan, you are going to not very far down in that list find a conspiracy theory. And actually, David Icke, who is a conspiracy theorist writing a number of wild and wacky things, which we won't discuss now, has actually been deplatformed. So he's been removed from both Facebook and YouTube last week, following comments that he made on London Live, a television programme, where he spoke about conspiracy theory, drawing links between Israel testing their technology, 5G, and coronavirus. Now, Ofcom are investigating these comments, but it's absolutely fantastic to see that platforms such as Facebook and YouTube have taken those steps to deplatform him, because actually these platforms give people a voice, and that's how these ideas are being spread.
Absolutely. And I think it's our duty, every single one of us, to report something if we see it. A lot of these comments online can go undetected, unfortunately. People are using dehumanizing language, kind of provoking others to actually harm these communities. And the worry is that, yes, this is currently all online, but what happens after lockdown's over? It's the worry that these will escalate into threatening the communities physically and on the streets.
Yeah. You know, hate crime levels on the street obviously have dropped because we're not on the streets, but there is still a lot happening online, and we want to make sure that that isn't then translated onto the street as well. So really just keep your eyes peeled for these things. If you do see it, report it to either Tell Mama or the CST if it is for anything anti-Semitic or anything against the Muslim community. And if you have any questions, then let us know. But thank you so much for tuning in. Hopefully we'll be back with some brighter topics soon. But thank you so much for watching. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.